Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm grateful to Marlon for giving way and congratulate him on bringing this debate to this House today. To his point, in my part of mid-Norfolk, which the clue is in the name, is not on the coast, we've seen in the last 10 years an extremely high rate of flooding. 2020, we had 200 houses with sewage. 2 months ago, we had 100 houses in Attleborough. This is getting worse and worse, partly climate change, yes, but also house dumping, inappropriate investment in infrastructure. Does he agree with me that as well as a national strategy, we need to make sure that in counties like this, where 38 agencies have responsibility, somebody has to be held to account for avoiding the flooding of our constituencies' houses?
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and again, that's a point I will touch on, but it's a very, very good point. And while some of the flooding may occasionally be inevitable, we can take action to avoid some of the worst excesses. Since 2007, we've had a number of schemes. By all means, yes.
I'm grateful for giving way. He's making an excellent point. Would he agree with me that it's really important that in the department, and I'm grateful that the Environment Minister is in her place, that the department understands that rivers' principal function is to drain water to the sea, and that ditches and our watercourses' principal function is to do that. And at times it's beginning to feel in Norfolk as though the Environment Agency and the environmental agencies are more concerned with keeping them full of mud and plants than making sure they fulfil their primary purpose, leaving constituents, farmers and people with sewage in their houses to pay the price. We need to remember that drainage is about drainage first and foremost.
Well, absolutely. That's why rivers run to the sea. It's a very good point. Now, one of the arguments made against dredging, and I'm afraid it is on the government's website, that clearing one part of a river just pushes the water downstream. But the logical conclusion to that argument would be to say that we should never place flood defences anywhere, which obviously we're not going to say. But rather, it's one good reason why we need a national as well as a local approach to the problem. Because, for example, if we were to look at the River Severn as a whole, we might come to the conclusion that the whole of the river needs dredging so that the water can be moved out to the sea as quickly as possible, as my honourable friend suggests. So I know that dredging is controversial, but I do think we have to have a conversation about its benefits and a proper analysis carried out by the government and the Environment Agency. And of course, it's not...
And that covers coastal erosion as well. I can see the honourable member from Mid-Norfolk is raising his hand, and I'll give way very, very quickly.
On that point, could I make the gentle suggestion that in Norfolk, certainly, the internal drainage boards are the most expert bodies at handling drainage. Could we not pay for them through some of the Environment Agency's substantial funding, rather than put it through council surcharges, which are very stretched?
I'll thank him for that. The drainage boards, of course, play a very important role in all of this dealing with flooding. They've played an important role in many cases, including nature-based solutions, and actually in regulating water levels, as has been touched on earlier. I actually did want to